We are reading from the Mandukya Upanishad, and this is our online class number 22 on chapter numbers 2 and 3. In this class, we will be mainly looking at the gist of the third chapter. But before that, let me take up the last 3 points from the second chapter that we could not do in our last class. In the last class, we saw that the second chapter discussed 4 broad topics. Topic number 1 was the unreality of the waking universe. Then topic number 2, the Karika cited the example of the dream, of our dream. Then topic number 3, it would try to prove that I am the substratum of the unreal creation. And number 4, there are some preparations that are required to understand this teaching. So they are called sadhanani or prescribed disciplines. We will take up the topic one by one. Since we have finished the first one, we will begin with the second. We ended our discussion on the first topic saying that a dependent existence is unreal. Similarly, whatever is jadam, matter, that would be always unreal or mithya. That is the meaning of the word Vaitatya. The second chapter is called Vaitatya Prakaranam. So the chapter which deals with the unreality of the world. The conscious being is the only principle which is real behind all these unreal concepts. Now the second topic of the second chapter, the example of the dreamless sleep, that is called, it is the dream. This idea is being proved by our own experience. In Vedanta, communication is done by 3 methods. By the 3 pramanas we have already discussed, that the pramana or proof of the quotations from the scriptures, then logically or rationally analyzing those quotations, and then we are trying to find examples or corroboration from our own experiences. So the logic stands like that. This waking universe is unreal because we can experience it like a pot or like an ornament. If the scriptural proof is not able to convince us, generally that is the case with many of our newcomers to the philosophical realm, then Vedanta uses yukti pramana, the logical proof. And if that too does not help, then our own experience is being used. Clear? So Gaudapada uses one common example from our own experience. That is called swapna or our dream. All of us have the experience of the dream. Gaudapada says that the dream world at the time of experience, when we are in a dream experiencing dream, the dream world appears to be very much real, like the waking world. It appears to be vivid, useful, etc. within the concept of time, space, subject-object relations, etc. And these are all being experienced. Time is being experienced, space is being experienced, subject, object, all these are being experienced there, right? But we know that this dream world is as good as unreal. Our getting a lottery there does not increase the bank balance or of the waking world. Similarly, if we do some payments from our banks in our dream, that does not decrease our bank balance. So it does not affect the dream world experiences or transactions generally do not affect us. Just as the dream world is unreal, even though it is really experienced by me, similarly the waking world should be unreal, even though it is experienced by the same me. Well, I am able to accept the unreality of the dream world because it is an uncontested concept so far as we understand, and more than that, it is the experience of all of us. But how can I expect or accept the material world to be unreal? Look, I can accept the dream world to be unreal because, number one, it happens within me. Dream happens within me, in my mind only, in the form of thoughts. Number two, I know that the dream world depends on me for its existence. And number three, and that is finally, the logic is, I know that the dream events are of no consequence to me. Hence I say that the dream world is unreal. Now the question is, does this waking world also satisfy these conditions? Then only we can say that this waking world also is unreal. So what are those conditions? That this swapna or dream happens in me, it depends on me, and the transactions in the dream do not affect me. These are the three logical points. Then only we can say that dream is unreal. So if the waking world really satisfies those conditions, then we will say that this waking world is unreal. Right? But you cannot say that because let us use the same logic here that we have used to prove that the dream world is unreal. Now about the waking world is not unreal because, number one, this world is not in me. It is very much outside me. I know that, you know that, everyone knows that. Hence this does not fulfill the first criteria, that this waking world is not in me. Number two, the second criteria was that the dream world depends on me because it happens in me, so it depends on me. But this waking world, physical world, exists independent of me. The world was there and will be there even after I go. Maybe happily will be there. Then number three, that is the third criteria, that is the third logical position, is that the world may not have consequences on me, but I know how it affects me positively or more often negatively. This world really affects me. Hence this world is not unreal, my dear. Gauravada says, yes, you seem to be right or correct. Your argument appears to be true. But let us notice a small fallacy or mistake in your understanding the criteria. When you say the world is not in me, the world does not depend on me, and the world affects me. What do you mean by this word me? Who is this me? Then you may say, me means this conscious individual who is a combination of this body-mind, who is a body-mind complex, an individual, I. Then Gaudapada says, if you say that, the word me means the body-mind complex, then Vedanta would say, my dear, the world is very much real. You are very much right, perfectly right. Vedanta will happily approve this argument forwarded by such people. Gaudapada says, I would also support you. I will never argue with you. Like Sri Krishna says in the Gita, that a materialist would argue that there is no purpose of my birth, except that I am the result of my parents' lust. And my parents are also products of the same lust of their parents. Hence, lust is the creator of this world. Hence, the genetic purpose of the world is to satisfy our libido. Sounds familiar? Even the evolutionary biologists and the psychological advancements of today would be horrified by this outlandish logic. At the same time, Sri Krishna warns us, saying, do not confuse such people who have decided to remain fixed on irrational ideas. At the same time, they claim to be rational people. It is like many of us who criticize uncleanliness and appreciate cleanliness, but in our own private rooms you will not see a very good example of cleanliness. Very true. Most of the vocal people are built in this model. Now Gaudapada says, but, and still I am talking to you, my dear Vishwa, the student of the earlier classes of this Upanishad, assuming that you understood the teachings of the classes on the first chapter. Gaudapada says, I have explained the four padas of the Atman and the consciousness principle, which is not a part, product or property of the body, PPP. All along during those discussions, I asked you, my dear, to be the volunteer in this experimentation and then shift your eye from the body, mind to the Turiyam, Turiya Chaitanyam, Turiya consciousness. That is your real identity. Now at this critical crossroads of your understanding, I would once again advise you to shift your understanding of I from individual I consciousness or ahamkara, ego, to the pure consciousness. Then and then only, my dear, let us apply the conditions one by one once again. Then you will be happy to say that this material world exists in me. In me, I am that plenary infinite consciousness. It is dependent on me for its existence, because there is no more existence than the infinite reality, which is consciousness. And it does not affect me, it cannot affect the pure consciousness. Because I am not an individual Vishwa, but I am Atman. And nothing can stick to me. Asango nas hi sajjate, Upanishad says. Nothing can be stuck to this. The Turiyam is me, the infinite consciousness. The world depends on this me, the consciousness. in order to prove or reveal its existence. The world depends on this me, the consciousness, so that it can validate its existence even if it is a relative existence. This world does not affect me, the conscious principle. From the standpoint of the whole consciousness alone, I would say that the world is as unreal as the dream. Right? On the other hand, if you feel confident or determined to say, I am the individual body-mind complex, then the world is very much real for you. But at what cost? At what cost, dear me? Then the real you will be as good as unreal. If the world becomes real, then my dear, you will be unreal. Just apply the same logic and you will see that how wrong you are. The logic we used for showing the unreality of the dream was, the dream exists in me, it depends on me and I am not affected by it. Similarly, the poor you, my dear, you are very much in this world. You exist in the world. Your existence depends on the world. And the world is not affected by your birth or death 1,000 times. The world is never affected by your birth or death, by my birth or death. Then what is the truth? The world is not affected by the birth and death of our ancestors. This is what Sri Krishna showed in the Gita in the 11th chapter, Vishwarupa Darshana Yoga, when he revealed his cosmic form, that this whole thing are unreal. Hence what happens? Hence you become unreal. If you are in the world, your existence, you are in the world, we are in the world. Our existence depends on the world. And the world is never affected by our coming and going. Then I become unreal. If the world is not unreal, then and then alone, you are unreal. Sometimes people argue that it is fine to say that after death I do not exist. Sometimes they call it nirvana. But it is a philosophy of the Charvakas or rank materialists or the atheists. In simple English, it is called escapism. The materialists say, enjoy this world and die happily. Don't care about your sins, misdeeds, and debts. These are propagated by those who are afraid of facing the reality of repaying the debts and being punished for the wrongdoings. They do read those scriptures that would sanctify their irresponsible life by sticking a commercial spiritual sticker on it. Swami Vivekananda calls it sanctified shopkeeping, a holy business. This is, unfortunately, the fad throughout the world at this very moment. This is the second topic in the second chapter, and that is Swapna Drishtanta, the example of the sleep, dream. Then the third one, that is called the substratum of this unreal world. Because this unreal world is experienced, we call it unreal because it is temporary. It was not there, it won't be there. That is what is called temporary. I am the substratum of the unreal creation that we have seen. If the dream world and the waking world are unreal, then what is the reality? The entire material universe is resting on the reality called Turiam. We remember that word used by the seventh mantra, Prapancha Upasamam, elimination of this creation, absence of the creation. It is not an object. This material universe, the pot, is not an object. But it is the conscious foundation, Turiam. But Turiam is the conscious foundation of this objective universe. For me, there is neither waking state nor dream state. It will be elaborated in the third chapter. Hence, we move to the next point. The next point is the fourth point, that is the fourth topic. We said that preparations required for understanding this teaching. Gaudapada talks about the preparations like acquiring emotional balance. Don't be carried away by your personal emotions. Look at it objectively. A mind is required which is free from all these emotions, attachment, fear, anger, etc. Then Gaudapada advises the regular Vedantic method, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, listening to the scriptural words or Upanishadic words, contemplating on them and meditating on them. That will come slowly to that. Next is complete giving up and then taking up something better. In the 18th chapter of the Gita, we have learned what is giving up and what is called monastic renunciation. There is not much difference. So with this second chapter ends. There are a few nice verses in the second chapter. As you know that the second chapter and third, fourth, all these three chapters, they are nothing but chapters written by Gaudapada to explain the first chapter and mostly to explain the seventh mantra of the first chapter. Anyway, we move to the third chapter. The third chapter is known as Advaita Prakaranam. It has 48 verses in the form of Karika, and this deals with the theme of the Upanishad, the reality of non-duality, validation of non-dual position. The second chapter is an elaboration on the word Prapancha Upasamam, which has been used by the seven mantra of the Upanishad we have seen. The third chapter is an elaboration on Advaitam, non-duality of the reality called Brahman. This Advaitam also has been used in the seventh mantra. Both the words Prapancha Upasamam and Advaitam define the Turiyam or the Atman. Now we have to remember that the Advaitam is used as a synonym of Brahman, pure infinite consciousness. Gaudapada shows the root meaning of the word as Dvaitam means Dvidhaitam, means what has been made plural. So Advaitam means what has not been broken or made plural, not divided into two. So this chapter says that this also discusses some points. We will go one by one, but this word Advaita says that Brahman is that which cannot divide itself into many, two or many. It is indivisible. That is one criteria. Second criteria is Brahman cannot multiply itself. Third criteria is Brahman cannot become many, cannot become the world. fourth criteria is it cannot produce the world. That is very important. That this is called Ajativada. And fifth criteria is the world is never born out of Brahman. And this sixth one is there is no creation at all. This is the height of non-dualism. There is no creation at all. So there is a doubt. In the previous chapter you say that the creation is unreal. Now in this chapter you say that the creation is not there. Which one is your view? Or are you misleading us? The answer is, well, both are one and the same. We said earlier that there is an unreal creation. There is an unreal creation. In this chapter we say that there is no real creation. There is an unreal creation, and here we say there is no real creation. Hence, there is no contradiction between the two chapters. In the first form, it is Mithya Jativada, means unreal creation. And in the second form of the assessment, it is Ajativada, means there is no real creation. Acceptance of unreal world is similar to rejection of the real world. That is the idea. This chapter can be understood under some 4 topics like before, but here topics are different. Some are really repeated, but in a very special way. So the first topic is negation of creation. That is called Shrishti Nishedha. Second topic is called significance of scriptural statements which talk about creation. This is Shrishti Shruti Tatparyam. Number 3, Amani Bhava or Mano Nasaha. Our mind is as good as unreal. We will see this later. This is a very, very important thing. And fourth topic is Mano Nigraha, and that is what is called Nididhyasanam or meditation, reorienting our thoughts. We will try to check these 4 topics one by one. Now Shrishti Nishedha, the first topic was that negation of creation. It is a topic which is really, really hard to swallow. And if we cannot swallow it, it sticks in the throat. We cannot throw it out also because we love to live with that. We love to live with that. And then the question continues to harass us on the other side. We love to live with that, but at the same time the questions continue to harass us. We ask questions. And so on. Gaudapada gives logical support to this conclusion. He says a creation can never come out of Brahman, the Turiyam of the 7th mantra. Brahman is defined as that consciousness which is beyond time and space. Adrishyam, etc. is said in this 7th mantra. Because the infinity has to be beyond time and space. Whatever is within time and space will have to be finite, because they determine the limitation in the form of duration and dimensions. Whatever is beyond time space cannot be subject to modifications, because modifications belong to time and space. Because modification is caused by time and space. Every object changes in time. Consciousness is the only thing that is beyond time, therefore it cannot modify. Then I cannot become the cause of anything, because I cannot change consciousness, cannot modify, because it is beyond time and space. And to be a cause is to undergo change. A cause can produce an effect only by undergoing a change. A cause is different from effect in the sense that the effect is not the cause as it is. Cause changes into effect. Effect is ring or ornament. Cause is gold. As long as it is gold, it is bullion, gold bullion. It is not an ornament. It has to change into an ornament. It has to undergo a change, then only it will be called an effect. A seed produces a tree, milk becomes curd, and all these things, clay becomes a pot. These are all effects. We discussed this idea about a change before already. Brahman is beyond time, hence changeless. Hence it is not a cause. Hence it cannot produce an effect. Hence it cannot be the cause of this world. Means the world cannot be born out of Brahman. We mix up things. Here in the material world, we use a matter as cause to create an effect. But both are material. Both are bound by time and space. The cause clay is bound by time and space. That is why it creates an effect called a clay pot. The cause gold is within time and space. That is why it changes, and that is why it creates an effect called an ornament. Correct? But that which is beyond time and space cannot change, therefore cannot have an effect, therefore cannot be the cause of the creation, cannot produce this creation. On the reverse process, the materialists accept that Brahman is subject to all changes between birth and death. Gaudapada says, by attaining that Brahman, we are not going to get liberation. Why? By attaining a changing Brahman, changeful Brahman, you don't get freedom. Because we have attained so many changing things in this world, but still this freedom remains far, far away from us. Attaining changeful things does not satisfy our freedom. That is why we are called worldly, samsari. If we are reducing Brahman or infinity into a changing cause, then Brahman will be impermanent also. Therefore, what is permanent? You create a permanent and give it another name, then call it changeful. Then what is permanent? Therefore, there will be anirmoksha prasanga. Anirmoksha prasanga means freedom will be invalidated and you won't get any benefit out of it. Therefore, clarifying the concept more, Gaudapada gives two examples. He compares every jiva to a pot in space. He calls ghatakasha. Space is one, motionless, pure. When the very same space is enclosed in different containers, a glass is there, a pot is there, different types of cooking things are there. There are so many things which are empty, which have space inside, nothing else. Then what happens? The same space becomes many. From enclosed space standpoint, there is plurality. It is a glass space inside the glass, the space inside the pot, the space inside the bowl. These are different spaces. But you cannot cut the space by using these pots, etc. The plurality of containers appears in the space only. The plurality appears in the space. Therefore, the plurality is dependent on the space. Therefore, the plurality is unreal. Same logic. And when the container moves, it appears as though the space moves with them. Hence there will be plurality, that is in our mind. There will be distance and there will be container which is destroyed. It appears as though the pot space is destroyed. When you destroy the container, you do not have pot space. You destroy the glass, you do not have empty space in the glass. Glass is not there. Actually, there is no birth, no movement, no plurality, no death of this pot space. And no impurity in that pot space. This is the pot which creates all movement, birth, plurality, death, impurity, etc. All of them belong to the container. It only appears in the content. Appears. Like when you carry a so-called empty pot from Berlin to Frankfurt, do you carry the space of Berlin to Frankfurt? Then you have to pay price for that. Gaudapada says, in the same way, the all-pervading consciousness seems to be enclosed in the body-mind complex. And that enclosed consciousness is called Jiva, you, I. It is never cut out from the total consciousness. Hence, when the body is born, it appears as though the consciousness is born. So what happens? Instead of saying the body is born, we say, I am born. And at death what happens? The body is cremated, not I. The body is cremated. We don't say the body is born. We say I am born. But finally the body is cremated. Who am I? The enclosed consciousness which was, is and will be the same infinite consciousness with body or without body, that is the I. The birth, plurality, etc. of a jiva is a misconception. The soul travelling from one sphere to another sphere, from this living world to the world of the dead, to heaven, to hell, all these travels are misconceptions. It is the container that is travelling in the form of the subtle body. It appears as though the consciousness is travelling. In short, Gaudapada says, Jiva is never born because Jiva is all-pervading Brahma consciousness. Then he uses the same Swapna Drishtanta, this dream example, which he gave in the second chapter also. Repeating this example, Gaudapada specially says that the experience of the dream does not prove the reality of the dream. Seeing is believing. Is it true? Experience can be misleading. Like sunrise, sunset, like movement of the sun. So many thousands of things. By the same logic, we will say that even though the dream is an experience, it becomes unreal when we wake up. Gaudapada does not negate the experience, but he says, all or any experience does not prove reality. Experience does not prove reality. I have seen that there was a snake. The snake experience and the fear and the palpitation created by the fear in our physical body, they are all real. But they do not prove the existence of the snake in front of us. The experiences, how much? We are afraid that there is a snake. I have seen that snake and it created palpitation in my heart, the physical body. But still this experience do not prove the reality that the snake is real there. Therefore, what we are experiencing is an unreal experience, which is comparable to the unreal dream. Therefore, there is no real universe. Now he gives the scriptural support. Many that the creation has not come out of Brahman, many such examples are there from the scriptures. Please remember the arguments that we gave in the beginning of the Upanishad classes. We said that when we say the scriptures say so, Upanishad says so, then it is an unquestionable and valid proof. So Kathopanishad says there is no plurality at all, Brahman is, was and will be. And then Brihadaranyaka Upanishad says that in by mistake we see difference. Mandukya Upanishad, and there are all such Upanishads which talk about this. Now we go to the second topic, Srishti Shruti Tatparyam, the significance of scriptural statements which say that there was a creation. So answering the possible question, that is, why should there be Shruti or the scriptural texts proving creation if there is no creation? There are many such Shruti texts which say that the creation was there. Why should they talk about creation if there is no real creation? This is not creating confusion in the minds of people. Again, the same kind of logic. Question. Gaudapada says, he says, introduction of creation is a temporary and powerful method to turn our attention to Brahman. Because if in the beginning itself the Upanishad narrates or negates the creation or narrates that the creation is unreal, then the student will not be able to grasp and also accept the teaching. The students are convinced that the creation is real. We live in this real world. That's what we were talking about. Like suppose in a debate, you cannot say, you start a debate, then you cannot say that the other person's views are wrong immediately. You start the debate and immediately say your views are wrong. So what do you actually do? You say, well, I accept that you are right. Accept that. Take your position to be right. Yes. You have these grounds or arguments to say that you are right. Fine. Then you analyze the opponent's arguments and disprove them one by one while establishing your stand bit by bit. At the end, the opponent accepts your final views. Automatically, he has already come to your final views, following your argument. In the same way, initially the scriptures introduce the creation and then say that the creation is an effect or product. That is the meaning of the word creation. It is a product newly made. Then you will ask a question, what is the cause? Your mind will be then guided to the cause. Because the cause is real. Brahman is real. Suppose I say that there is a pot. It is a product. Then you ask, what is the cause? I say, the clay. Then I explain how the pot is made out of only clay material. This clay does not contain pot in it. Like shape of pot, name of pot, or utility of pot. Nothing is ingrained in it genetically. Then you can say, my dear, the clay is real, but the pot is unreal. Temporarily real, but it is unreal finally. In fact, there is no pot at all. That also you can say. It has only a wordy existence. Verbal existence. Brahman is the only substance. It is called This process is called Adhyarupa and Apavada Nyaya. This is a logic which introduces something to negate something else. The end result is the pot is replaced by the clay. Similarly, the teacher replaces the world by Brahman. Like we say, okay, I say that there is a snake. It is created on a rope. Then I say that the snake is real and the rope is also real. Because you have seen both of them to be your objects of perception. All of us have seen a rope and a snake. Both of them are real. There is a real snake, there is a real rope. Then why do you create such a big fuss about this example? If the snake is also real, rope is also real, yes, they are real. But we never called a rope a snake. No. We called a snake, a rope a rope. Isn't it like that? We never called a rope a snake any time. Even if we have real experiences of both a rope and a separate snake. We never called a rope a snake. We did not do that. We never saw them as one. Never. Now in the case of our mistaking a rope for a snake, these two realities are seen as one. That is why it is called a mistake. And my dear, in this example, you should know that there is actually no snake in front of you. Do you get the point? The snake might be there somewhere else, not here in front of you. That is why it is a mistake. The snake is real somewhere else, not here. It is only the rope. Only the rope. It is not more than a rope. It is only the non-dual consciousness. You have discovered it. You have seen it. You are that. This process is like our using a catalyst for completing the reaction. At the end of the reaction, catalyst does not take part in it. It remains as it is. This is called a temporary method. Then the third topic it discusses is Amani Bhava. This is a very important topic, how the mind becomes non-mind. Actually, the meaning of this word is that we know that Atman is only true. Mind and other things are not really true. We said that this dream world is unreal. Why? Because it fulfills three criteria. Number one, on waking up I find that the dream world is existing in me. It is dependent on me for its existence, and the events of the dream world do not affect me. Like we gave the example of the bank balance. Now Gaudapada says that I can myself validate the conclusion that the world is unreal under one condition, that I should understand that the world is in me, it is dependent on me, and the events of the world do not affect me. These three things we will surely know only when I know that I am the consciousness principle, infinite consciousness principle. And this consciousness is not part, property or product of the body. It makes the body living. It is not limited by the boundaries of the body. It does not die with the death of the body. And the destruction of the body can never destroy this consciousness, this me, this Turiyam. Therefore, Gaudapada says, as long as you think that you are the body-mind complex, you cannot claim that the world is unreal. The world is unreal only for a jnani who knows I am Brahman. for a realized soul. Someone asked Ramana Maharshi, are these lokas, these different spheres, heavens, hells, are they real? Then that great Maharshi said, as long as you think that you are the body-mind complex and that is real, then these things are also real. So this becomes a fact for a realized soul that this world is unreal. Unreality of the world and the reality of Brahman happens simultaneously. For a person who has realized, just as the dream becomes unreal for a person who has just woken up. As long as the dream continues, the dream is real. In fact, the mind is subtle matter and therefore it is included in the world. Hence the mind is also unreal. This is called mononasa. The mind is unreal means it is as good as not there. Even when we are still an individual, but still we will not be affected by the mind. We look at this unreality from the standpoint of the real Atman, otherwise not. And the fourth of these topics is Nididhyasana Manonigraha, disciplining the mind. So this is a wonderful word, disciplining the mind, or reorientation of our thoughts so that they are in sync, in perfect conjunction with our Vedantic teachings. Realignment of every thought to follow the teaching. The idea is that if I am attached or hateful to any object, it means that I am giving reality to that object. Strong attachment, strong aversion or hatred means you give too much reality to the thing, too much importance. Ignore it. That means the Vedantic teachings are really easily forgotten if you go that way. Losing the peace of mind, losing sleep, all these things will come. Small and temporary attachment and aversion, they are allowed. Well, you go, enjoy the movie, but when you come out, you try to live in the real world, not in the movie theater. Not in the movie. Learn lessons from there and be in this real life. Do not create an alternate reality, a virtual universe. See the movie, come out, but live in yourself. Undue reality should not be attributed to the world. Undue reality. And then this portion of the Upanishad, this third chapter, ends with some suggestions how to remove the obstacles. What are the obstacles and how to remove them? There are 4 obstacles in respect of this nididhyasana or meditation or disciplining or reorienting the mind. The first obstruction is laya. This is a distraction of the mind. You are sitting in meditation or you are analyzing the mind, contemplating, etc. But slowly you doze off, you fall asleep. That is called distraction. So, what to do in that condition? No, then you start doing Vedantic thinking. Again you start with the process of analysis. Vikshepa, that is called Vikshepa, and that is called laya. And Vikshepa is you doze off and you go to sleep. And laya is distraction of the mind. Mind travels here and there. And the third is kashayam. Kashayam means the mind becomes stunned, stultified. Means the mind is not capable of functioning, or it seems like that. Some unconscious problem will come that you cannot define. You have no explanation why the mind is very engaged without knowing any reason. What is that to which the mind is engaged? What is that the mind wants? It is searching for. You do not know, or you cannot identify the cause. Sometimes this is called emptiness. You miss something. So what to do? This is also a problem for practicing Vedantic disciplines. Gaudapada says, just allow time to pass. And also spend time with your friendly atmosphere, in your friendly atmospheres. That is what is called satsang. Be in the company of like-minded people, good people, who can create a harmonious atmosphere. Then, fourth is rasasvadanam, desire. It is a desire to experience Brahman as an object of experience. This always is the problem for the non-dualist thinkers, or the people who are following the path of non-dualism. We want to experience Brahman. I want to know myself as different from me. I want to know myself as an object of my experience. Samadhi is like that. You have to negate the desire of experiencing that Brahman. From the beginning, you have to make it a point that whenever that thought comes, that I want to know who I am really as different from me. That is not possible. As soon as you know yourself, what happens? All questions stop, you don't want to know anything, and you are happy. That is the experience. Not knowing what it is, how much length, breadth and whiteness, redness, etc. These things do not count. So with this, the third chapter ends. So we have only fourth chapter left. We have done 3 chapters. First chapter deals with the Upanishad. So it is called Agama Prakaranam. Agama means Upanishad, Shastra, scripture. Second chapter deals with the unreality of the world. It is called Vaitatya Prakaranam. Third chapter deals with the reality of Brahman, Advaita Prakaranam. Here it says that the world is not real. And the second chapter it said the world is unreal. So world is not real, therefore what is real? Advaitam, non-dual consciousness, Brahman experience is real. So I stop here. Thank you very much for your participation. We will stop with the chanting of Om. We will chant it once. Om